This segment is from the PianoInspires podcast, Season 2, Episode 6, featuring Dennis Alexander and host Jennifer Snow.
What is your process? I mean, here you are, you've been given the request, you committed. There's sort of two questions in this question.
Okay.
One has got to do with your character and your values. Must come from your home, which your character of, I committed and said yes, probably not realizing what I've got myself into, to
Yes,
quote you.
absolutely.
But I'm going to do it then because I said I would.
Yeah.
So therefore, the establishment of Morty recognizing in you, if I just say I need this, you will do it. And therefore, you will also grow and flourish. And the magic of Dennis will go to the world. and secondly, your compositional process, is it born out of improvisation? Is it born out of you see something that inspires you? I mean, it's very interesting to me.
People ask me this a lot,
I'm sure.
and it's a hard question to answer because it involves a multitude of things. I'm inspired by my students. I'm inspired sometimes by nature. I'm inspired by compositions that I have performed or taught. I'm inspired sometimes just from a title that I come up with. Sometimes it might be a rhythmical motive that gets the process going. I'm a melodic person. I love. I really love beautiful melodies, and for me, most compositions need to have a good sense of melody, if not a really interesting rhythmic motif type of thing. So I'm inspired by so many different things, and because I do improvise easily, and I also play by ear, those particular skills were very important in my development as a composer. I'm so grateful that my earlier teachers never discouraged me from improvising.
Right.
Because I used to go to my lessons and sometimes just improvise. And, my first teacher, Mrs. McCune, I remember once I was improvising on one of my pieces, and she sat back and kind of giggled and smiled, and she said, "Well, Dennis, now, that was very clever, but if you do that on the recital, I will kill you." I never wanted to embarrass her by doing something I shouldn't do, but she actually loved the idea that I could improvise on a Clementi sonatina or something, and turn it upside down and around, and make it maybe a little more interesting. But so having those particular skills and the background, I think, made it much easier for me to come up with a wide variety of styles and pieces. I love to write jazz pieces. I of course, loved writing the nocturnes.
Yes.
And I like to write toccatas. And when I did my various collections with my good friend Ingrid Clarefield, Keys to Stylistic Mastery and Keys to Artistic Performance, I was writing in Baroque styles and classical styles and romantic styles and impressionistic styles and contemporary styles.
Right.
So, I've been fortunate that some of the projects that I've been asked to collaborate on also forced me to write the types of pieces that I might not have done otherwise.
Right. And that comes to your character for me, where something comes to you and you don't say, "Oh, I don't do that." You say, "Oh,
I'll try that.
yeah, I'll try that. I could do that."
Yeah, yeah. And whenever I do, for instance, a Zoom session with a group of pedagogy students at a university, I like to tell them, and I like to remind the kids in this group of pedagogy majors to never forget how important it is to be versatile.
Yes.
Be versatile.
Mhm.
Take classes in public speaking. Take some business classes. Take pedagogy. For goodness sakes, don't ever forget to take piano pedagogy. And if you're a performance major, all the more reason
Yes.
to take piano pedagogy
Mhm.
and learn to do different skills, because you never know when an opportunity might come into your life that you could be qualified for. That could be either a secondary career, or it could be a career that's equally as challenging and interesting to you as your primary career,
Right.
which is exactly what happened to me.
How do you feel about, when we think about the community at large, how few people have the opportunity to cultivate improvisatory skills and improvisatory like exploration
Mhm.
and composition and creativity? Have you seen, because you're in touch with such a broad music teaching community and pianists, have you seen movement in more exploration of improv, more exploration of composition? We see all these young people now
Yeah.
starting to compose, and technology
Oh,
sort of
yeah.
giving them that opportunity, regardless if someone's teaching them or not.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was growing up, even when I was in college, that opportunity wasn't nearly as
Mhm.
prevalent and generous as it is today. So I'm so happy to see more and more sessions at conferences being offered on improvisation, learning to read chord charts, learning to be more creative in
Mhm.
not only their playing, but also in their teaching. So I think today, and certainly the Francis Clark Center and PianoInspires does a lot to promote the importance of those skills.
Mhm.
So I think young teachers today are much more apt to want to teach some improvisation in their studios, or um, to encourage their young students or high school students to compose things that did not happen 20 or 30 years ago. Don't you feel that?
Oh, yes. And I was going to actually connect that to this idea of you work a lot with young people. And one of the things I find so wonderful about your music, first, beauty, and makes the piano always sound so big and gorgeous. So that beauty of sound, which is so important, making beautiful sounds,
Yes.
expressing through sound.
Yeah.
But also, you make pieces that are, from a sequential learning perspective, very achievable.
Mm.
So as a young student, you sound like a pianist.
Yes.
You don't sound like you're just, I'm learning piano. You're like, I can perform this piece. Is that something that is sort of the way your mind works? Is it something you're very purposeful about when you're thinking about levels and how the hand sizes and how the patterns
Oh,
go? And
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. When I first started writing for Alfred, um, my keyboard editors, uh, Gail Kowalczyk and E.L. Lancaster, developed a um, very comprehensive listing of uh, traits that needed to be within each level. Okay.
Mhm.
And I tried to adhere to that as much as possible. And writing at the late or elementary or late elementary level is much more challenging for me as a composer than writing at the intermediate level, where you have so much more leeway and options to choose from for
Right.
things to do. So finding ways to write elementary pieces that are interesting and fun and creative, um, pieces that kids want to practice, like to practice,
Mhm.
is very, very challenging. And in fact, whenever I sometimes get asked by budding composers out there, they'll ask if I could possibly look at some things they've written and give them advice. I find that um, for most of them, they want to turn in materials for me to look at that are more advanced.
Right.
And I'll ask them, could you please write a couple of elementary pieces that have certain restrictions,
Mm-hmm.
no 16th notes, no even dotted quarter followed by an eighth note rhythm, and that covers a fairly wide range of the instrument, and show me what you can write that's fun and interesting and somewhat novel. And I'm amazed at how hard that is for lots of younger composers
Mm-hmm.
to do. But if they ever want to get their foot in the door from a compositional standpoint, writing for educational
Mm-hmm.
companies, they need to be able to come up with interesting, exciting things at that elementary level,
Yeah, the accessible level.
at the accessible level, because
Mm-hmm.
that's, first of all, it's what publishers sell the
Right.
most. And, the sales go down at the higher levels get.
Sure.
And, and I think a lot of young composers who are interested in a career doing this don't understand that yet.
I also think it's connected to your deep passion for teaching and also teacher education.
Yeah,
That, you came to composition as an outgrowth of your love and passion
for
for
teaching.
playing piano, teaching piano
Yeah,
and helping others teach better.
yeah,
And
yeah,
therefore your awareness and understanding of who you're writing for.
yes,
And that's probably something that many young composers haven't thought through. Well,
yes.
actually, if I spend time with the group of people I'm writing for, I'll begin to understand better
Yeah, yeah.
how they would respond or
Because
how they learn.
yeah, they have to know how a child thinks. They need to know what works for the young hand and the small hand.
Right.
So yeah, when I'm writing music at those levels, I think very, very hard about what feels good in the hand for the smaller hand, or I try and write pieces that are so interesting from either a harmonic or rhythmic or a melodic standpoint that the child will want to practice it and grow from it. And I love it. For me, the nicest compliment I can get from a teacher is for them to tell me, your music works so well for my kids because it
Right.
fits their hands
Mm-hmm.
and it stays within the level. That's another important thing I
And
think
it
and it
so
sounds, it makes
beautiful.
them sound better than they are.
Right. It makes them sound big,
Yes,
like
yeah,
pianists.
yeah. And I love it whenever I hear
Yes.
things like that.
Be sure to listen to the full episode on our website, pianoinspires.com, on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.